Hello everybody, RaspberryBeryl here, and today we're going to be reading a biography of one of my queens of Mewni, Solis the Courageous. Before we begin, I just wanted to say again that if any of you are interested and want me to be reading some of the other biographies by Jig0109, to please comment down below. So if you're interested in me reading any of the biographies that some people have already done, such as Urania, Polaria, Crescenta, please comment and let me know down below. I'm only going to do it if I get enough people saying they'd be interested. And okay, Solis's biography is a lot longer than I wanted. I thought it was going to be my shortest, but I guess I wrote a story and then I wasn't able to shorten it, so I might be dividing this into two different videos. We'll see how far I get in like 30 minutes, and if I still have story, I'll make a separate video. Please forgive me if I stutter, hesitate, and mispronounce anything, and let's begin. Solis the Courageous. Her life seemed pretty great until she found love. Then she couldn't escape the twisted fate, and so she ran away in fear of. Solis the Courageous. Born 1069 a.m., died sometime after 1103 a.m. Was queen 1086 a.m. through 1091 a.m. Married to Eric Shruven. Children, Plutoa butterfly and Athena butterfly. Solis Butterfly was born on the early morn of Darturk 14th, 1069 a.m. She was born with pink hair resembling her mother's melon streaks. She had bright, beautiful six-pointed stars on her cheeks and blue eyes of both her mother and father. Stella would begin to teach her daughter to walk and do things early on, the two having lots of fun together, and making Solis a very smart and somewhat advanced baby. Solis would go on her first major family trip with her mother and grandmother when she was 2.5. They would venture to Dimension 812 to see the sunset they read of in the Book of Spells, while their husbands were off on their own business adventure. Before this, Solis had never gone outside the kingdom. The family would go on many other trips and adventures together across the years, and Solis loved seeing all the magical and dreamlike things and creatures. Solis loved interacting with others and making friends. She was able to get along with and make friends with most everyone she met. She was closest to her mother's friend's daughter, Selena Kelpbottom, and Sienna Lucitor. Solis wished to go on more adventures with her friends, and wished that they didn't always have to be under supervision, but she understood her mother's anxieties and tried to stay patient, obedient, and calm. Queen Stella tried to satisfy her daughters once with books of adventures, which wasn't great, but it was enough to keep Solis happy. Solis read of the wonderful princesses and heroes in these books, their adventures, families, and amazing lives. Much like her mother, Solis began to fantasize and dream about what her life would be like and the wonderful adventures she'd have. Stella also decided to read the magical Book of Spells to her daughter every so often, and Solis very much looked forward to hearing the stories and tales of her family and ancestors. Around the age of 8, Solis started to get more interested in romance stories and tales of handsome princes. Solis began to develop feelings for some of these fictional characters and would tell her mother and friends all about them. Stella told her daughter that it was fine that these books and characters brought her joy, but to not get too attached to them. They were fictional characters that she could never really be in love with or have a relationship with. Hearing this slightly saddened Solis. She decided to not think much of her mother's words. She thought about the boys she knew and was friends with. Did she think they could ever be like her handsome heroes, and she could ever grow to love them? Solis would experience her puberty in 1079, making her 10.5, and being one of the earliest puberties of all butterflies. Solis hadn't really been informed much yet about puberty and the growth of the princesses. When it did come up in the spellbook, Stella chose to skip over it. Due to this, Solis was confused and frightened when she awoke in her room with things on the floor and wings on her back. She came to see me immediately, and I explained it to her. She chose to not inform her mother of it, being that it happened quite early, and me telling her her mother still hadn't gone through hers. After her puberty, Solis started to feel for the male friends she hung out with, and at 12 decided it was time to start searching for her future groom. Solis went through many relationships throughout her tween teen life. She really liked interacting with others and finding their differences and trying to determine what she wanted in a husband. Solis would usually go on 1 to 3 dates and then move on to the next. After several meetings with people, Solis decided she wanted to get to know more people on the darker, bad side. She hadn't seen or heard many tales of princes like that and wanted to see what that story would be like. Like many things in her life, Solis didn't tell her parents what she was really doing or thinking. She just told them that she was trying to make more friends, get to know her subjects, and find people to help her with projects and things. Queen Stella and King Kevin worried about all the things their daughter was doing, especially after seeing that she had a thing for hanging with bad boys and demons around that time. They tried to talk to her and ask her what she was really doing, and to get some better friends, but it appeared to be no use, and the king and queen decided it was fine as long as she was safe and not getting into trouble. They couldn't force her to do things and shouldn't push her away from the things she likes that aren't causing any problems. After being spoken to by her parents, Solis decided to slow down and start slow. She decided to ask one of her old friends, Derek Coleman, to be her first boyfriend. Derek was the noble boy from the Coleman family, and Solis considered him somewhat of a rebel and bad boy due to his love of skateboarding. On Solis's birthday in 1083, Solis turned 14 and received the magic wand and spellbook. The crystal of the wand took the form of an 8-pointed star, and the wand regained its wings that it had lost in Stella's reign. Solis's wand, the 8-pointed star. After the ceremony and party concluded, Stella took Solis into the office room and sat her down to discuss some things. Stella told Solis how she wanted to start making plans for Solis's future, starting with her love life. Solis was shocked her mother wanted to have her engaged, but felt she could love anyone, and so went along with it to hear what her mother had to say. Queen Stella presented 3 suitors Solis could choose from to be engaged to. The first was the noble Alexander of the Ellis family, then Eric Shruven, and then last Prince Elijah Jaggi. Solis hesitated, not knowing what to say. She could tell her mother put a lot of work into deciding which noble she could choose from, but Solis didn't know much of these suitors and worried she wouldn't connect. Solis thought, and she decided to choose Eric Shruven due to recalling hearing his family doing well and cooperating in the kingdom's meetings. Queen Stella smiled and told her daughter that that was a fine choice, and that this was just if she couldn't find someone by the time she needed to be queen. She could still choose another if she were to find love. Hearing this made Solis feel much better and relieved some of her stress. Queen Stella then told her that she supposed that could be enough for that day. They'd make more plans and decisions later. Solis then ran off to begin learning of her new wand. At the Bell Ball of that year, Solis would make a better friendship with most of the princesses and noble girls of the kingdom, making her parents feel much better about her road for the future. It was also there that Solis was formally introduced to Eric, the two taking the first dance of the night. Prince Jaggi was also there that night. Solis was afraid he might be mad at Eric for winning the place of the engagement. She didn't know whether or not the others had been told that they had a chance. The night went well, and Solis was happy with what she learned of Eric. He seemed like a very nice man. Maybe the engagement wouldn't be that bad, and she really would grow to love him. Solis would attend a demon ball in the underworld by the invitation of her friend Princess Sienna Lucitor in the same year. Several of Solis's other friends also attended, and they all had a wonderful night. Solis would dance with her old friend David, who she used to date. Solis enjoyed the night and seeing all the types of demons she didn't usually encounter. Solis would look over and see a boy standing by himself, and so she decided to walk over. She was a bit hesitant, wondering what the boy was doing standing there alone. He didn't appear to have any demonic qualities, so he was most likely invited and didn't come by himself. Solis went over and introduced herself, and then asked how he was doing. The boy said he was fine, perhaps a bit bored. The two then talked with one another for a while, and then he thanked Solis for talking to him. He was feeling quite lonely. Solis said it was no problem. She didn't like seeing anyone alone, and she really enjoyed getting to know him. Solis then brought to his attention that he still hadn't introduced himself, and she wanted to know what to call him if she were to want to see him again. The boy said that she could call him Edmund, and he would love it if they would see one another again and could be friends. Solis wanted to ask him more, but decided she had asked enough, and that she needed to slow down as to not overwhelm him. Solis then gave him her number and wished him farewell, and then went to rejoin her friends and enjoy the last of the party. Solis would call up Edmund a few days after the ball to talk to him and continue their conversation. The two enjoyed listening and talking with one another, and so then decided to go on a few dates. After 2 successful dates, they decided to pronounce themselves boyfriend and girlfriend, but to not tell anyone. On their 3rd date, Edmund decided to reveal to her that he had been partially untruthful to his identity. Solis was a bit drawn back and afraid, but told him to please continue. Edmund explained to her that he was very shy and afraid, and that he was actually a shadow demon. He was the prince of the shadow demons and was simply wearing a disguise as to not embarrass himself at the ball. And then she had spoken to him. He was afraid after that she wouldn't like him. He then added that his real name was Zelenzo, but he preferred being called Edmund. He then, in a poof of smoke, transformed into his halfway form, as he called it, telling her that he'd reveal the rest later, but please be patient with him. Solis told him she had no real problem with him being afraid, and she'd be fine with waiting till he was ready. Solis and Edmund enjoyed each other's company and would have many great times together. In 1084, Edmund took Solis to his home and introduced her to his family and some of his people. Solis loved getting to know and see everyone, and she'd also make one of her closest shadow friends, Quinn, there. Although they had so many wonderful times together, Solis chose to continue to not tell her parents about them dating. She did introduce him to them, but only said that he was a friend. On Gravnock 1084, it was almost Independence Day and time for the annual festival and reenactment. Solis didn't like that they still celebrated this day, despite now being friends with the monsters, and she could tell many citizens of Mewni didn't like it either. Solis asked her parents why they still celebrated this day, and Queen Stella said that they made things much better from how they used to be, and it was simply that it was a part of their history and many wanted to celebrate it, and would still celebrate it even if they called it off. Solis thought, and then asked her mother if she could please be put in charge of managing the festival that year. Queen Stella told her daughter that that would be a great idea, but to not make it too crazy or drift from the purpose of the festival. And so Solis began preparing everything, and on Gravnock 37th, everything was set up and beautiful. Solis stood up on the stage and thanked everyone for being there. She then told them that year they wouldn't be having their usual reenactment. Solis told them how it was great that they wanted to celebrate history, but now that they were friends and equals with monsters, it wasn't right. Solis told them that this year, she prepared a show telling the story of the friendship between them instead, and the long journey they all went on. All the people were so happy and amazed with everything that Solis had prepared. Solis kept some of the things that the people loved about the celebration, but turned it around and gave it a new meaning and purpose. The citizens of Mewni thanked Solis for the wonderful show and festival, and the monsters thanked her especially, so they didn't have to think of that horrid day in their history. The people cheered for Solis and exclaimed to her that she was a very great princess and was going to make a great queen. On Grievance 30th, 1086, Solis was going to spend the weekend with her friends, and King Kevin was away on a business trip, leaving Queen Stella by herself for the weekend. Solis's friends were throwing a 2-day princess party sleepover, and Solis was most excited, but decided that she was going to spend the majority of the first day with Edmund, and then join in the party for the end of the day and sleepover part. Solis was packing her things, and Queen Stella walked in to wish her a good time and check to make sure that she understood what and where her daughter would be. Solis explained to her worrying mother again, but left out the part about spending the day with Edmund. Solis still hadn't told her mother about her dating him, and it wasn't that she thought she didn't like him, it was just that she knew her mother really wanted her to stick with the engagement plan, and she feared her mother would not let them be together, with there only being so long until she was the age to be queen, and the will would be put into effect. She wasn't going to tell her mother unless she knew he was the one. Solis said goodbye to her mom and wished her a good weekend and to not get too lonely. They'd be back soon, and then went off to Edmund's house. Edmund answered the door, and the two hugged each other and began their day together. After about 2 hours talking with one another, Edmund told Solis that, remember how he hid most of himself from her when they first met, and how he later told her, but said he'd reveal the rest later? Well, he was ready. He then revealed to her his true form, not looking all that different, but now having more demonic features. The princess stared at her love and whispered, "You have beautiful eyes." Edmund then responded, "You don't care that I look this way? That I was afraid to show you all this time?" Solis responded back with, "No, I don't care what you look like. I care what's in your heart, but you do look very handsome." The two then continued talking and having fun together. Solis and Edmund had a wonderful day together, talking, watching things, going out for lunch. It was around 5 p.m., and Solis and Edmund were lying on the couch together watching a movie. Solis stared up at her love, admiring his wonderful smile and eyes, and remembering her young self, wondering what her love life would hold. The movie came to an end, and Solis got up and stretched. Solis then looked at the clock and said that she'd better be heading out. She'd already missed so much of the party, and her friends would be mad if she missed dinner. Edmund held her hand and then said he had one last thing to show her. He asked her to close her eyes and follow him to it. He then told her she could open them, and she saw pretty flowers everywhere, and candles and hearts. "What's the occasion?" Solis asked, and then turned around to see Edmund kneeling down behind her. Solis gasped, realizing what she thought was about to happen. Edmund grabbed her hand and began to tell her that she was one of the most amazing people he had ever met, that she was so kind, and that he still remembers and thinks about all the time, the day that he met her and she said hello because she didn't want him to be lonely. They had so many great times together. He was afraid she would not like him for who he really was and how he appeared, but she accepted him, and in doing so confirmed to him that she was right and it was time. He reached from behind him and pulled out a box, and inside was a ring. Edmund then asked if she, Princess Solis Butterfly, would please make him so happy and become his queen and bride. Solis couldn't believe what was happening. Was she ready? She felt like she couldn't breathe, and quickly tried to ask herself what to say. Solis thought, and she knew she was ready. Solis threw her arms around him and exclaimed, "Yes! Yes, I'll marry you!" The two hugged and kissed each other. Edmund then told her that that was all he had to show. She could go join her friends now if she needed to, and if she was going to tell them to please have fun and not be too crazy teen girls. Solis looked at the door and then said she might like to stay a little longer. Her friends could wait. Solis and Edmund ran to the store and bought some food, and then they made a wonderful romantic dinner together. They then watched more things together in Edmund's room and would end up falling asleep. Solis awoke, realizing she had slept with him that night and not gone to the sleepover. But all seemed well, and they were now engaged. Things were fine. Solis and Edmund then made breakfast and were sitting down to eat, when Solis got an urgent call from the Butterfly Castle staff. Solis picked up the call and was worried something had happened to her mother. Then the staff explained to her that it was urgent, but things were fine. It was just that her mother had entered puberty, and I, Sir Glosric, wanted her family there right away. Solis told Edmund goodbye, and that she'd talk to him soon, and rushed over back to the castle to see her mother. And okay, everyone, I know we didn't hit our 30-minute mark like I had planned, but I think that was a good stopping point. We're about halfway through, and so we'll continue in part 2 next. I hope you have all enjoyed listening to part 1, enjoyed the story, and are ready for part 2. And once again, if you would like me to make videos of Urania, Polaria, and those other queens, please comment down below. And please go check out my DeviantArt if you want to see anything else. Once again, I hope you enjoyed it, and have a good rest of your day. And are ready for the next one. Bye.